So, what motivated you to get involved in the College of Perfusion?
Um, when I returned to the UK in 1992, after having spent 3 years in America, um, I got the position in Bristol, initially as a senior perfusionist, and then I got the chief perfusionist job in 1994 in Bristol. Um, and I felt as though I needed to help or to contribute to the development of the profession. It was still a very young profession, but the excellent work that was being done in terms of the academia, Tony Fisher was doing good work. Students were being trained well. Initially, I got involved with the society to try and almost to improve the standing of Bristol as a centre for perfusion training. And then later on, I was asked if I'd be interested in taking up a seat on the Society of Perfusionists, or Society of Perfusionist seats on the College of Perfusion, which I did, and thoroughly enjoyed my time. And I had a good mentor in at the time. Meta Larson, a young lady from Plymouth, was the president of the college, who was an excellent president. And Patrick Campbell was the vice president. And so I was able to watch and observe and contribute, and to help develop the profession in a way that I thought that I could constructively. So it was primarily to develop the profession, or in my opinion, to see if I could contribute to perfusionist development.
So, what was the aim of college when implementing N+1? And do you think all the centers are following correctly?
So to put it to be absolutely accurate, N+1 is should have the idea that there should be one more perfusionist than the number of operating theatres or operating rooms. It's a difficult position in that it's the Society of Perfusionists recommendation. So it's not the College of Perfusion's mandate to do that. The College of Perfusion is, as the registering body, has to implement the Society of Perfusionists safety guidelines. So it's a Society of Perfusionists recommendation. The idea is that there will always be one more qualified perfusionist than there are number of operating theatres. This is a very difficult and prickly subject, because particularly in low volume centres, specialist centres, primarily paediatric centres or small adult centres, there may not be enough work and enough practice for people to have N+1 at all times, or even on the rota. So by having a 1 in 3 on-call rota, that means that, if you're in a centre that's only doing 400 cases a year, you will need a minimum of 4-5 people to implement that rota safely, taking into account annual leave and sickness. So there may not be enough work for all of those people to do. The N+1 is a good principle, and is a safe and sound principle, in that you should have access, a perfusionist who's on bypass should have access to another qualified perfusionist for a high impact, low frequency event in the need of for example, an oxygenator change out, or some catastrophic event whereby a second pair of qualified hands are required.
Yeah, because there's a lot of misconception, and everybody follows their own rules and regulations for N+1. Because some would stop at 6 o'clock in the evening, and some will have like 24/7 cover.
I think obviously the idea is that there will be 24/7 cover, and in the ideal world that would be the case. But I think everybody has to be pragmatic about it, and wherever possible, it should be implemented. But if it isn't implemented, then it should be documented in a safe, in a risk analysis type scenario, whereby the risk is stratified, basically to cover the perfusionist's responsibility and maintain patient safety at all times.
So apart from UK or any other country in the world, practices N+1 or implemented.
In the United States, when I worked there, I know it was 30 years ago, but different states had different rules. So I worked in Pennsylvania, where 2 people were required to conduct a perfusion, but they didn't have to be qualified perfusionists. You had one board eligible or board certified perfusionist with a perfusion assistant. But in other states, you had to have 2 state registered qualified perfusionists to do a case. So there was variation, almost on a sliding scale, but most states had at the time 2 people to conduct a bypass. They were either 2 qualified perfusionists or 1 perfusionist and a perfusion assistant.
So you have used S3 and S5, and then when you switched over to quantum, the new generation heart lung machine, what was your take on that, and how do you felt switching from been using for the last 20, 30 years and suddenly switching to a new computerized or modern equipment? How well did you cope up with?
If you're using as in many occasions, we use the airline or the aircraft industry as a parallel to perfusion. When I started in perfusion, I was using an old Sands pump, and then we used the early Stockert pumps, and to ultimately in Bristol we bought the Spectrum Quantum pumps just before I retired. So in terms of the aircraft analogy, I started my career in a Spitfire, and I end up flying a Typhoon jet. It's mind-boggling. The only limit with the Quantum is the individual's imagination. It's a very clever piece of kit, but it's not for. But clearly, it won't be for everybody. But it works really well. But having said that, so does the S5, S3, S5, HL20, the Getinge Mackay pumps. So I've been lucky in that I've used so many pieces of kit.
Because I saw you on a Monday, and you had an emergency case over the weekend where you did use quantum, and you shared that that was the happiest case you ever done. When you went home, you were so pleased that you have done with the new equipment.
Yeah, I think as many of the students and the perfusionists I've worked with will attest that I still say every day is a school day, and if you don't learn every day, and you don't achieve anything, or you don't feel as though you've achieved anything, then that's to your detriment, as it were. So yes, I was proud of the fact that I was a 60-odd-year-old gentleman, and I'd done a case in the Quantum on a Sunday morning, and it was challenging, but that's what you need, I think. So yeah, for a number of years now, I've felt as though I've been trying to stay on the curve, stay on top of riding the wave. But clearly, as you get older, it's more difficult, and it's important that you recognise that you're still riding the wave, or when you're losing it, and it's time to say, yeah, this is passing me by.